Aiden slowly opened his eyes. A bright, sterile light pierced through the frost-covered glass above him. For 15,000 years he had slept in the cryosleep chamber, dreaming only of distant memories he barely recognized. The last thing he remembered was the gentle hum of the engines, the rocking of the ship, and the quiet voices of the crew wishing him farewell. Now he was awake, but everything felt strangely silent and unreal. He blinked several times, trying to adjust. The chamber hissed softly, releasing its final layer of frost. The air was cold, and he could see his breath forming small clouds as he exhaled. Aiden swung his legs over the edge of the pod and pressed his feet against the cold metal floor. His body ached from the long sleep, his muscles stiff and uncooperative. Yet despite the discomfort, curiosity burned inside him. Something felt terribly wrong. The ship was eerily still. Aiden walked down the narrow hallway, passing rows of cryosleep pods, all empty except for his own. Dust had gathered in thick layers on the walls and floors, as if time itself had paused for millennia. He touched the handrails, and the metal crumbled slightly under his fingers, a reminder that even the strongest structures decay over time. When he reached the main deck, he froze. Through the large observation window, he expected to see Earth in its familiar blue and green glory. But the planet below was nothing like he remembered. It was gray and silent. There were no lights, no oceans glimmering under the sun, no signs of civilization. Aiden felt a chill that went beyond the cold of the cryosleep chamber. 15,000 years had passed, and humanity was gone. His heart pounded as he rushed to the communication console. He tried to contact orbiting stations, satellites, anyone. Every attempt failed. Silence, not even static, answered him. Panic threatened to rise, but he forced himself to think. There had to be a reason. Something, somewhere, would explain this emptiness. Aiden moved toward the ship's exit. He needed to see the truth with his own eyes. The landing craft was small but functional, designed for surface exploration. He activated it and prepared for descent. As the craft left the ship, the gray world below grew larger, revealing forests and plains overtaken by wild growth, cities reduced to rubble, and highways cracked and broken. The landing was rough, but safe. Aiden stepped out and felt the ground beneath him. It crunched like broken glass. The air smelled faintly of dust and decay. He looked around and saw the remains of buildings he once knew. They were silent witnesses to a world that no longer belonged to anyone. Cars rusted into the streets. Parks were overrun by plants, and towers of glass and steel had fallen into jagged heaps. Not a single human figure moved. He began walking through the streets, calling out, but only his own echo returned. He touched a door handle, expecting it to give way, but the wood and metal crumbled at his touch. Aiden's stomach tightened. Loneliness pressed down on him like a heavy stone. 15,000 years of waiting had led to this moment. He was alone in a world that had forgotten him. Hours passed, and he continued to explore. He found remnants of books, some with pages yellowed and brittle, others completely unreadable. Computers lay cracked, their screens long dead. He walked through schools, hospitals, libraries, and offices. Each place was a ghost of a life that once existed. The air held a strange quiet, as if the planet itself mourned what had been lost. In the center of the city, he stumbled upon a square where statues once stood. The stone figures were broken and worn by centuries of wind and rain. Aiden ran his fingers over the surface, feeling the grooves of human artistry that had been forgotten. It was impossible to imagine that once people had lived here, laughed, argued, and dreamed. And now nothing remained. As he walked further, he heard a faint sound from a collapsed building nearby. His heart leapt. Could it be someone alive? He approached cautiously, and from the rubble emerged a small robotic drone. It had long been abandoned, its metal scratched and faded, yet its sensors flickered weakly as it recognized him. The drone hovered, and a mechanical voice spoke, faint and trembling with static. Humanity. Lost 'cause unknown records. Corrupted. Aiden stared at it, unsure if he should feel relief or despair. At least he was not completely alone. At least something remembered, even if only faintly. He knelt beside the drone, inspecting it. The machine projected a holographic map of the planet. Cities were marked, but most were damaged or destroyed. Only a few pockets of civilization were indicated, all labeled as inaccessible. Aiden's mind raced. If there was even a tiny chance that some humans survived, he would find them. If not, he would discover the truth behind the disappearance of humanity. Determined, Aiden continued his exploration. He climbed over fallen walls, waded through streams that had long been left untended, and entered tunnels where once there had been underground trains. Every step was a mixture of fear and wonder. He had dreamed of adventures, of discovering new worlds, but nothing had prepared him for the emptiness of his own. Night fell, and the sky became a dull shade of gray, illuminated only by the pale light of distant stars. Aiden built a small shelter from debris to protect himself. He lit a small fire, though there was no warmth in it for his soul. The world was silent, and he realized just how fragile humanity had been. A single mistake, a single unknown event could wipe out an entire species. Sleep was impossible. Memories of friends, family, and the life he once knew filled his mind. He remembered the laughter of children, the chatter of marketplaces, the smell of rain on summer streets. All gone. And yet, somewhere deep inside, a spark of hope remained. Aiden would not give up. 15,000 years of sleep had brought him to this moment, and he would not waste it on despair. The next morning, he returned to the city center. He noticed strange growths along the roads, plants that had overtaken buildings and even parts of the highways. Nature had reclaimed the land with incredible speed. Birds, or what seemed to be birds, flitted through broken windows, their calls echoing in the empty streets. Life had survived, just not humanity. Aiden began keeping a journal. Every detail, every strange phenomenon, every ruin became a record. If humanity had vanished, he would carry their memory. If anyone survived, they would know the truth. He also began repairing the small drone, naming it Luma for its faint glowing lights. Together, they explored the ruins, searching for clues, piecing together a puzzle that had taken 15,000 years to form. Days turned into weeks. Aiden found remnants of old technology, strange devices he could not fully understand, and structures that suggested humans had been experimenting with advanced energy sources before their disappearance. Some places were too dangerous to enter, collapsed or filled with strange machinery that hummed with unknown power. Yet each discovery brought him closer to understanding the past. One day, while exploring an old library, Aiden found a hidden chamber. The walls were lined with preserved records, papers, and data drives that had survived the centuries. His hands shook as he opened them. Some files contained messages from people who had lived in the final days of humanity. Fear, confusion, hope, and despair were recorded in each line. Aiden realized that humanity had fought to survive, but some unseen force, natural or otherwise, had ended their journey. As the sun set, Aiden stood on a hill overlooking the ruined city. He held Luma close, watching the gray horizon. The world was quiet, but he felt a new determination. If humanity was erased, he would uncover the cause. If anyone remained, he would find them. And if he was truly alone, he would carry their memory into the future, ensuring that the story of humans would never be forgotten. For the first time since awakening, Aiden smiled. 15,000 years in cryosleep had been only the beginning. His journey had just begun. Aiden rose early, greeted by the pale light of a sun struggling to pierce the gray clouds. The ruined city stretched out before him, a silent testament to the lives that had vanished. Luma hovered beside him, its small lights flickering with a quiet hum. Today, Aiden decided he would venture farther than before, beyond the city's borders, to find clues that might explain what had happened to humanity. He packed what supplies remained in his small rucksack: a few preserved rations, a water filter, a portable scanner, and some basic tools he had salvaged from the ruins. Luma followed, scanning the ground ahead for any obstacles. They walked past the empty streets, stepping over fallen signs and broken pavement. Birds and small animals moved cautiously, curious but wary of the lone human exploring their domain. As they left the city behind, Aiden saw signs of a strange transformation. Forests had grown where buildings once stood, their roots breaking through concrete foundations. Rivers and streams had carved new paths, washing away roads and leaving only fragments of bridges. Nature had returned in full force, reclaiming what humans had once built. Yet amid the wild growth, there were hints of something unnatural. Strange structures, unlike anything Aiden had seen, jutted from the earth, metal and glass towers partially buried, their purpose unclear. Aiden approached one of these structures cautiously. It was a tall, cylindrical tower, half buried in the earth with strange markings etched along its surface. Luma projected a scanning beam, trying to decipher the inscriptions. The drone emitted a soft series of beeps. Unknown language. Energy reading detected, it said. Curiosity overcame caution. Aiden climbed the fractured steps at the base of the tower. The door, though warped and damaged, opened with effort. Inside, the air was cold and smelled faintly of metal. The walls glowed faintly, illuminated by residual energy from machines long dormant. Screens and consoles lined the chamber, some flickering weakly, displaying symbols Aiden did not understand. As he moved deeper into the tower, he found evidence of human activity. Tools and containers lay scattered, and walls were covered in notes and diagrams. He realized that before their disappearance, humans had been experimenting with something extraordinary, something beyond ordinary science. Perhaps it was ambition or perhaps desperation, but the traces of their work hinted at a plan, a hope, or maybe even a mistake. Aiden reached the top of the tower, where a large dome allowed him to see far across the transformed landscape. Forests, rivers, and ruined cities stretched endlessly. In the distance, he saw other towers similar to the one he had entered, scattered like silent sentinels. Some emitted faint pulses of light as if waiting for someone to awaken them. He noted the positions, marking them in his journal. These towers might hold answers, or at least pieces of the puzzle. As he descended, a soft vibration ran through the tower floor. Machines deep within the structure stirred. Lights blinked faster and a panel slid open, revealing a small storage compartment. Inside, he found a data crystal still intact. Carefully, he inserted it into a portable reader. The screen flickered to life, showing recordings of people speaking. Their voices strained but determined. The recordings revealed a story. Humans had discovered a powerful energy source, one that could change the course of civilization. They had intended to use it to solve hunger, disease, and climate problems. But something went wrong. Experiments had spiraled out of control. Cities had been destroyed, populations displaced, and the last record suggested that humanity had evacuated or perished in a cataclysmic event. The final message was incomplete, cut off mid-sentence. Aiden realized that the truth was still out there, hidden, waiting to be found. He stepped out of the tower, taking a deep breath of the crisp, gray air. Despite the danger and uncertainty, he felt a surge of determination. Humanity had left behind fragments of knowledge, and he would uncover them all. Luma hovered beside him, scanning the horizon. "Other towers may hold more data," the drone said. Aiden nodded. He would need to travel far, across forests, rivers, and mountains, but he was ready. As they journeyed, Aiden encountered remnants of the old world. A bridge once grand had collapsed into the river below. He crossed carefully, balancing on the remaining supports. Abandoned vehicles were scattered across roads, some rusted to nothing, others preserved in ways that defied explanation. Each artifact was a reminder of what had been lost and a clue to what might have happened. They arrived at a small town, half covered by earth and vegetation. Aiden explored its streets cautiously. Homes had collapsed, windows shattered, and gardens were overgrown. Yet amid the ruins he found signs of recent activity. Footprints in the dirt were faint but distinct. Someone or something had moved through this place not long ago. His pulse quickened. Could humans still exist? He followed the tracks through the overgrown streets into a narrow alleyway and paused. The tracks disappeared. The silence was heavy, but he refused to give up. Somewhere in this empty world, answers were waiting. Luma scanned the area, detecting faint traces of energy similar to the towers. Aiden realized that these structures might be linked to the remaining life or energy patterns of the planet. Night fell, and Aiden made camp near an old school. The building was crumbling, but it offered shelter. He lit a small fire and kept watch. Stars dotted the sky, but there was no moon. The quiet was overwhelming, yet comforting. In the silence, he thought of the people he had never known, the lives that had ended and the world that had been. Sleep was brief and uneasy. Aiden dreamed of a city full of people, laughter echoing through the streets, children running, markets alive with color and sound. He awoke with a sense of urgency. The dream reminded him of what was at stake. Humanity had vanished, but knowledge and memory remained, and he was their custodian now. The following day, Aiden traveled farther north, reaching the edge of a forest that had swallowed a once bustling city. Trees grew thick, their roots breaking through buildings and streets. Animals moved freely and birds nested in structures that had once been skyscrapers. Luma hovered ahead, scanning for energy patterns. They led him to a clearing where another tower emerged, partially buried in the earth. This tower was different. Its doors were sealed and the structure pulsed with faint energy. Aiden approached cautiously. He pressed his hand against the surface and the tower responded. A panel slid open, revealing a stairway leading deep underground. Luma's lights flickered nervously. "Caution recommended," it said. Aiden descended carefully. The stairway opened into a vast chamber, filled with machinery and glowing conduits of energy. At the center was a platform with a circular device humming faintly. Data terminals surrounded it, displaying incomprehensible symbols. As he approached, the device reacted to his presence, lights spinning and patterns shifting across the floor. He touched a terminal, and the screen displayed a series of logs. Humans had been experimenting with energy manipulation on a scale beyond anything Aiden could comprehend. The logs mentioned portals, attempts to harness energy from other dimensions, and warnings about instability. The final entry was alarming. If misused, the energy could erase all life. Project cannot be controlled. Evacuation initiated. Aiden stepped back, understanding the gravity of what he had discovered. Humanity had reached for greatness, but the cost had been catastrophic. These towers were remnants of that ambition, holding clues to both the achievement and the disaster. He knew that his journey would be long and dangerous. Each tower could hold answers or hazards, but he also knew that uncovering the truth was his purpose. As he prepared to leave, Luma hovered near the central device. Further exploration recommended. Multiple towers may form a network. Energy readings suggest connections. Aiden nodded. The puzzle was larger than he had imagined. Humanity's disappearance was not random. It was the result of ambition, curiosity, and perhaps tragedy. Aiden climbed back into the forest and set a course for the next tower. The journey would be challenging, rivers to cross, mountains to climb, and forests to navigate. But he felt a growing sense of purpose. With Luma beside him, he was no longer entirely alone. The towers, the records, the remnants of the old world, they were all pieces of a story waiting to be told. As night fell again, Aiden looked back at the forested ruins, the gray horizon stretching endlessly. He felt both awe and determination. Humanity had vanished, but their legacy remained. He would uncover it, piece by piece, and perhaps somehow ensure that the mistakes of the past were not repeated. The wind whispered through the trees, carrying faint echoes of the world that once was. Aiden tightened his pack, adjusted Luma's sensors, and took his first step toward the next tower. His journey had only just begun, but for the first time he felt a glimmer of hope. Knowledge, discovery, and perhaps even answers lay ahead. He would find them no matter the cost. Aiden and Luma traveled for days, moving carefully through forests, rivers, and broken roads. The landscape had become increasingly strange. Some areas were overgrown and wild, while others bore the marks of human technology, long abandoned but still humming faintly with residual energy. The towers he had discovered formed a pattern across the land, each pulsing faintly as if connected. Aiden could feel that he was getting closer to understanding what had caused humanity's disappearance. The journey was not easy. Rivers had shifted courses over the millennia, leaving deep channels and sudden drops. Aiden had to climb cliffs and cross broken bridges, his heart racing with each precarious step. Luma hovered above, scanning for hazards and pointing out hidden dangers. Once, Aiden nearly fell into a sinkhole, but Luma's warning light blinked just in time, guiding him to safety. The constant tension reminded him that this world, though quiet, was not entirely safe. One afternoon, they reached a vast plain. The remnants of an old city lay beneath tall grass and creeping vines. Skyscrapers had collapsed into twisted heaps of metal, and streets were fractured and uneven. Yet in the distance, another tower rose above the ruins, more intact than the others. Its lights pulsed rhythmically as if breathing. Aiden felt a mixture of awe and trepidation. This tower might hold the answers he sought, or it might hold dangers he could not yet imagine. As he approached, he noticed strange creatures moving in the shadows. They were small, with thin limbs and glowing eyes, clearly evolved in the absence of humans. They watched him cautiously but did not attack. Aiden moved slowly, trying not to startle them. Luma scanned them and recorded their movements. New life forms detected, it reported. Adaptation appears advanced. Aiden marveled at the resilience of life. Even in humanity's absence, the world had adapted and changed. He reached the tower and studied the entrance. Unlike the others, this one had a reinforced door with strange symbols etched into the metal. Aiden pressed his hand against it, and the door reacted, sliding open with a hiss. Inside, the air was cool, almost sterile, and the walls glowed faintly with an energy that pulsed in rhythm with the tower's heartbeat. He stepped cautiously, feeling the hum under his feet. The interior was vast, larger than any tower he had explored before. Machinery lined the walls, and conduits of energy ran across the ceiling. Holographic displays flickered with information, some in languages he could not comprehend. As he moved deeper, he found rooms filled with human artifacts, books, tools, devices, and personal belongings. It was as if the people had left in a hurry, abandoning everything they had known. At the center of the tower, he discovered a large chamber. A circular platform sat in the middle, surrounded by consoles and glowing energy fields. Aiden stepped onto the platform cautiously, and the energy reacted to his presence. Lights danced across the floor, forming patterns and symbols that shifted constantly. Luma hovered nearby, analyzing the readings. Energy resonance detected, it said. Pattern appears to be linked to other towers. Aiden approached one of the consoles and activated it. A holographic recording appeared, showing a human scientist speaking urgently. We have underestimated the power of the energy source, the recording said. It is unstable. If not controlled, it could affect the entire planet. Evacuation is the only option. We must warn the others. The recording ended abruptly, leaving a sense of fear and urgency lingering in the chamber. He examined the consoles further and found data files detailing experiments with energy manipulation, dimensional portals, and advanced technology. The record suggested that humanity had reached a level of understanding far beyond what he had imagined. They had discovered ways to manipulate energy on a scale that could change reality itself. But something had gone wrong. The experiments had become uncontrollable, leading to disaster and the eventual disappearance of the population. Aiden realized that the towers were more than just storage facilities. They were part of a network designed to monitor and control the energy that humans had discovered. If he could access all the towers, he might uncover the full story and perhaps even stabilize the energy, preventing further damage. The task was daunting, but he felt a sense of purpose stronger than fear. Humanity's knowledge, its triumphs and mistakes, were now his responsibility. He spent hours exploring the tower, documenting everything he could. Luma assisted, scanning and recording data, creating maps, and analyzing the energy patterns. They discovered that the towers were designed to communicate with each other through energy pulses. By aligning the pulses, a person could activate the entire network, potentially accessing the knowledge of humanity's final experiments. Aiden realized that this was both an opportunity and a danger. The energy was powerful and unstable. Missteps could cause catastrophic consequences. Yet the temptation to uncover the truth was irresistible. He resolved to proceed carefully, taking note of every detail, every symbol, and every pattern. As night fell, he made camp inside the tower, using a small enclosed space for shelter. The hum of the energy network was constant, a reminder that he was standing at the heart of humanity's last attempt at progress. Outside, the wind whispered through the ruins, carrying faint echoes of the past. Aiden thought of the people who had lived, worked, and dreamed in this world. Their story had ended abruptly, but he was determined to continue it. The next morning, Aiden explored the surrounding area. He found a path leading deeper into the plains where more towers were visible in the distance. Each one pulsed with energy, forming a network that stretched across the land. He noted their positions in his journal, planning the route he would take to visit each one. The journey would be long and difficult, but he felt ready. With Luma's help, he could navigate the challenges and uncover the secrets hidden in the towers. As he traveled, he encountered more signs of the world's transformation. Rivers had carved new valleys, forests had grown where cities once stood, and animals had adapted in unexpected ways. Some creatures seemed intelligent, observing him from a distance, while others simply moved through the ruins, oblivious to his presence. Aiden marveled at the resilience of life and the adaptability of the planet. He reached the next tower by evening. Unlike the previous one, it was partially buried in sand, as if a desert had overtaken the area over centuries. The structure was weathered, but the energy pulse was strong. Aiden approached carefully, brushing away sand and debris to reveal the entrance. The door opened with effort, and he stepped inside. The interior was different from the other towers. The walls were lined with screens displaying strange symbols and shifting patterns. In the center of the chamber, a large device emitted a soft glow surrounded by consoles and control panels. Aiden activated one of the consoles and a holographic recording appeared. A human voice spoke urgently about experiments gone wrong, energy instability, and the need for evacuation. The message ended abruptly, reinforcing the sense of urgency and danger. Aiden realized that each tower held pieces of the same story. Humanity had reached for greatness, discovered powerful energy, and lost control. The network of towers was their attempt to manage and contain that energy, but the system had failed. He felt a growing sense of responsibility. If he could access all the towers, he might be able to stabilize the energy and uncover the full truth. He spent the night in the tower, carefully documenting everything. Luma worked alongside him, scanning, analyzing, and storing data. The drone's presence was comforting, a reminder that he was not completely alone. Together, they planned the next leg of the journey, aiming to visit each tower in sequence, uncovering the story of humanity one step at a time. The following day, Aiden continued his journey, moving through forests, rivers, and plains. Each tower he reached revealed more about humanity's achievements and mistakes. He saw the brilliance of their technology, the scope of their ambition, and the tragedy of their disappearance. The world had changed, but the legacy of humanity remained, waiting for someone to uncover it. As the sun set, Aiden stood on a hill overlooking the plains, the towers glowing faintly in the distance. He felt a mixture of awe, determination, and caution. The journey ahead would be long and dangerous, but he was ready. Humanity had vanished, but their knowledge, their ambition, and their story were not lost. He would continue to uncover it piece by piece, tower by tower. Aiden adjusted his pack and activated Luma's sensors. The path ahead was clear, though filled with challenges. Rivers, forests, deserts, and mountains lay between him and the remaining towers, yet he felt a growing confidence. The towers held the key to understanding humanity's disappearance, and he was determined to find that key. As night fell, he set camp under the stars, the towers glowing faintly in the distance. The hum of energy resonated in the air, a reminder that he was at the heart of humanity's final experiments. He thought of the people who had lived, dreamed, and built this world. Their story had ended, but he was now its custodian. With careful steps, determination, and the help of Luma, he would uncover the truth and ensure that the legacy of humanity was preserved. Aiden woke to a pale gray dawn, the light stretching across the plains like a thin blanket. Luma hovered beside him, its sensors blinking softly. Today, he decided, they would reach the next tower, a massive structure visible in the distance, half covered by overgrown forests and broken roads. Its energy pulse was stronger than the others, almost as if it were calling him. He felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. The closer he got, the more he sensed the importance of what awaited inside. The journey was long and exhausting. Forests thickened, roots twisted across the ground, and fallen trees blocked their path. Aiden climbed over logs and waded through streams, the cold water soaking his boots. Luma guided him, scanning for danger and alerting him to hidden pitfalls. The forest seemed alive, not in the sense of humans, but in the quiet, watchful way that nature had adapted over millennia. Birds, strange small mammals, and insects observed him from a distance, curious but cautious. By midday, they reached the edge of a cliff overlooking a wide valley. At its center stood the tower, its energy pulse visible even from this distance. The sight was awe-inspiring. Unlike the other towers, this one was larger, more complex, with multiple layers and structures surrounding it. It seemed to be a hub, a central point in the network. Aiden realized that whatever information it contained might be the most important he had discovered so far. As he began the descent into the valley, he noticed signs of previous human attempts to reach the tower. Old scaffolding, collapsed bridges, and broken pathways suggested that people had worked here long ago, perhaps trying to study or control the tower's energy. Yet none had succeeded, or if they had, their records were lost. Aiden's heart pounded with the weight of responsibility. He might be the first human in 15,000 years to stand at this tower's center. The closer he got, the more unstable the ground became. The valley floor was littered with ruins, twisted metal, and broken technology. Luma scanned ahead, projecting a path through the debris. They had to move carefully. One wrong step could trigger a collapse or damage the fragile structures. As they moved, Aiden noticed faint energy readings fluctuating across the valley. It was alive, as if the tower was testing their presence. Finally, they reached the tower's base. The door was enormous, carved with symbols similar to those on the previous towers, but larger and more intricate. Aiden pressed his hand against it, and it responded immediately. The massive door slowly opened, revealing a cool, glowing interior. The air inside hummed with energy, vibrating faintly against Aiden's skin. Luma hovered closer, scanning every surface. Energy levels significantly higher than previous towers, it reported. Inside, the tower was vast and multi-layered. Machinery lined the walls and glowing conduits ran across the floor and ceiling. Holographic screens flickered with data, some in languages he could partially understand, others completely unknown. At the center of the chamber was a circular platform, similar to the previous towers but larger and more complex. Energy flowed from the platform into conduits that connected to the walls and ceiling. The entire tower seemed to pulse like a living organism. Aiden stepped cautiously onto the platform. The energy reacted to his presence, flowing around him in patterns he could feel through the floor. Luma analyzed the readings, projecting a holographic map of the tower's interior. Central hub detected, it said. Likely contains full network data. Aiden realized that this tower might hold the complete story of humanity's experiments, including what had caused their disappearance. He moved toward a console near the platform. As he touched it, a holographic recording activated. A human voice spoke urgently. "We have reached the final stage. The energy is unstable beyond our control. Attempts to regulate it have failed. Evacuation is underway. If this message is seen, it means humanity has vanished. The towers are the last remaining record of our achievements and mistakes. Use them wisely." The recording ended abruptly, leaving Aiden with a chilling sense of urgency. Exploring further, Aiden found detailed logs of experiments, energy manipulation, and dimensional research. The entries revealed humanity's ambition and brilliance, but also their errors. They had tried to harness energy from other dimensions, hoping to gain unlimited power and knowledge. But the energy was volatile. The experiments had created ripples that destabilized entire regions. Cities had fallen, populations had been evacuated, and eventually the species itself had vanished. The final logs hinted at a failed attempt to stabilize the energy network, leaving the towers as silent guardians of the past. Aiden's mind raced. If he could access the full network, he might understand exactly what happened, and perhaps even stabilize the energy. The task was daunting. One mistake could be catastrophic. Yet the thought of uncovering the truth drove him forward. He carefully activated more consoles, piecing together the sequences that connected the towers. Each interaction revealed more about the experiments, the failures, and the ambition that had led humanity to its end. Hours passed as Aiden worked. Luma assisted tirelessly, scanning, recording, and analyzing. The energy network reacted to their presence, pulsing faster at times as if testing them. Aiden realized that the towers were not just archives. They were interactive, designed to respond to intelligent life. The energy was powerful, but it could be guided if handled carefully. As night approached, Aiden took a break. He stood on the platform, looking out through the tower's high windows. The valley below was bathed in the soft light of dusk, the ruins and forests casting long shadows. He thought of humanity, of the lives that had ended, of the mistakes that had led to this moment. Yet he also felt hope. If the towers could preserve knowledge, then the story of humanity was not lost. He could carry it forward, learn from it, and perhaps prevent history from repeating itself. During the night, strange phenomena began to occur. Faint lights flickered across the valley floor, moving as if guided by unseen forces. The energy network pulsed with irregular rhythms, and Aiden felt a subtle vibration in the tower itself. Luma detected unusual readings. "Energy fluctuations increasing," it reported. Patterns suggest external influence. Aiden realized that the tower's energy was not completely contained. Something or someone might be interacting with it. Sleep was impossible. Aiden monitored the systems, documenting every anomaly. He realized that the network was alive, sensitive to movement and reactive to energy. It was both a library and a living system, designed to preserve humanity's knowledge while preventing misuse. He felt the weight of responsibility. If he made a mistake, the consequences could be dire. Yet he also knew that discovery required courage. The next morning, Aiden explored a hidden section of the tower. He found chambers filled with preserved equipment, devices that had once been used to study the energy network. He carefully examined each one, noting the advanced technology and the meticulous records left by the scientists. It was clear that humanity had been brilliant, but hubris had led to their downfall. The energy they had discovered was beyond control, and the towers were their final attempt to preserve knowledge safely. Aiden realized that the towers were connected not just physically, but through the energy network. Each tower acted as a node, maintaining balance and storing data. If he could access them all, he might be able to stabilize the system, understand the full scope of the experiments, and uncover the complete story. The journey would be long and dangerous, but he felt a renewed sense of purpose. Humanity's legacy was within his reach. As he prepared to leave the tower, he noticed faint tracks near the entrance. Small, cautious footprints, not human, but intelligent in their patterns. Something or someone had been here recently. His pulse quickened. Could there be survivors? Or had other creatures adapted to the energy network? He made a mental note to investigate further, aware that the world was not as empty as he had believed. Descending into the valley, Aiden set his sights on the next tower. The path was treacherous, with collapsed bridges, rushing streams, and dense forests, yet with careful steps and Luma's guidance they moved steadily. The energy readings from the next tower were stronger, more stable, suggesting that it might hold the most critical data of all. Aiden's excitement grew. Soon he would uncover truths that had been lost for 15,000 years. By evening, they reached the edge of a dense forest surrounding the next tower. Aiden paused, taking in the sight. The forest was thick and overgrown, hiding ruins beneath its canopy. Strange sounds echoed in the distance, calls of creatures he had never seen. He tightened his pack, adjusted Luma's sensors, and stepped into the forest. The journey would test him, challenge his courage, and reveal more of the world's secrets. Yet he felt ready. The story of humanity was unfolding before him, and he was determined to see it through. Aiden stepped into the dense forest surrounding the final tower. The trees were thick, their roots twisting across broken roads and buried ruins. Strange sounds echoed in the distance. Calls of unseen creatures, rustling leaves, and the hum of energy vibrating through the ground. Luma hovered close, its sensors scanning the area carefully. The readings from this tower were the strongest yet. Aiden felt a mix of excitement, fear, and determination. The truth about humanity's disappearance was within reach. The journey through the forest was difficult. Fallen trees blocked their path, and the ground was uneven, littered with debris and remnants of old structures. Aiden climbed over roots and rocks, careful with each step. Occasionally, faint traces of footprints appeared, suggesting intelligent movement long after humanity had vanished. The forest was alive, yet eerily silent in some areas, as if nature itself was holding its breath. After hours of trekking, they reached a clearing. There, the final tower rose above the forest, massive and imposing. Its surface shimmered faintly, pulsing rhythmically with energy. Unlike the other towers, this one seemed complete and untouched by centuries of decay. Aiden's heart raced. This tower was different. It felt like the center of the network, the hub of knowledge and energy that had shaped humanity's final days. He approached the entrance cautiously. The doors were large, engraved with symbols that glowed faintly as he drew near. Luma's sensors detected strong energy patterns inside, stronger than any they had encountered.
High energy concentration detected, it warned.
Caution required. Aiden nodded, steeling himself. One wrong move could have catastrophic consequences, but he knew he had come too far to turn back. Inside, the tower was vast, filled with machinery and conduits carrying energy throughout the structure. Holographic screens flickered to life as he walked, displaying data in languages both familiar and unknown. At the center was a massive circular platform, surrounded by consoles and glowing pillars of energy. The entire tower pulsed as if alive, its rhythm in harmony with the other towers he had explored. Aiden stepped onto the platform. Immediately, the energy reacted to his presence, flowing around him in intricate patterns. He felt it in his body, a vibration that was both thrilling and unsettling. Luma analyzed the energy network, projecting a holographic map showing connections to every other tower. The network formed a web across the planet, each tower a node in a system designed to contain and monitor the immense energy discovered by humanity. He moved toward a central console. As he touched it, a holographic recording appeared. A human voice spoke urgently. "This is the final stage of the project. The energy is unstable and beyond our control. Attempts to regulate it have failed. Humanity must evacuate or perish. The towers will preserve knowledge and maintain stability. Only a careful and intelligent mind can access the network safely. If this message is seen, humanity is gone. Learn from our mistakes." The message ended abruptly, leaving Aiden with a heavy sense of responsibility. Exploring further, he accessed additional consoles and data storage units. Logs revealed the final days of humanity. Scientists working tirelessly, trying to control the energy, creating the towers as a safeguard, and documenting their discoveries. The energy had originated from a dimensional source, providing near-limitless potential. But it was volatile, unpredictable, and extremely powerful. Mismanagement had led to the collapse of societies and eventually, the disappearance of the human population. Aiden realized that the towers were not just archives, they were interactive, living systems designed to respond to intelligent life. They contained all of humanity's knowledge, discoveries, and mistakes. If he could carefully navigate the network, he might understand the full scope of what had happened, and perhaps even stabilize the energy to prevent further damage. Hours passed as he worked, connecting with the other towers through the network. Luma assisted tirelessly, scanning, recording, and analyzing the energy flows. The system pulsed around him, reacting to his presence, but not aggressively. It was as if the towers were testing him, gauging his intelligence and caution. Aiden's determination grew. He would uncover the truth not just for himself, but for the memory of humanity. As night fell, strange phenomena began to appear within the tower. Lights flickered and faint shapes moved across the halls, shadows that seemed almost alive. Luma scanned the area. Energy fluctuations increasing, it said. Patterns suggest external influence. Unknown entities detected. Aiden felt a thrill of fear mixed with curiosity. The network was alive, not just with stored energy, but with unknown residual forces, perhaps echoes of the dimensional energy itself. He continued deeper into the tower, reaching a chamber at its core. Here the energy was strongest. The walls shimmered with patterns that seemed to shift constantly. Aiden placed his hands on a central console, feeling the pulse of energy flowing through him. Images, symbols, and fragments of information flashed in his mind. He understood pieces of humanity's final experiments, the ambition, the mistakes, and the consequences. The knowledge was overwhelming, but he remained focused, determined to learn everything carefully. Suddenly, the energy surged. Aiden stumbled but held onto the console. Luma projected a shield around him, stabilizing the readings. The tower's energy pulsed more rapidly, as if reacting to his presence and testing his resolve. Aiden realized that the network was sentient in a sense. It could sense intelligence, caution, and intent. If he acted recklessly, it could destabilize, causing harm. He breathed deeply and approached the central device with renewed focus. Using the information from the previous towers, Aiden began carefully aligning the energy flows. He adjusted the conduits, calibrated the consoles, and synchronized the towers through the network. Each step required precision, attention, and patience. Mistakes could be disastrous, but he moved deliberately, guided by logic, observation, and careful analysis. Luma assisted at every turn, providing readings and feedback. Hours passed in concentrated effort. Slowly, the energy network began to stabilize. The pulsing became rhythmic, less chaotic, and the holographic displays aligned into clear, readable patterns. Aiden realized that he was succeeding. He was bringing balance to the system that had caused humanity's downfall. The knowledge of humans, their brilliance, their errors, and their ambition, was now fully accessible. Finally, the central platform glowed with a steady light. The energy network hummed in harmony. The towers synchronized and the patterns became stable. Aiden felt a sense of awe and relief. The system was no longer chaotic. Humanity's knowledge had been preserved and the energy was under control, at least for now. The towers had responded to intelligence, and he had proven capable of interacting with them safely. As he explored the records, Aiden discovered the final message hidden deep within the network. It was from the last human scientists. If you are reading this, you have survived where we could not. Humanity has vanished, but knowledge remains. Learn from our ambition and mistakes. Preserve this world. Use this knowledge wisely, for it is both a gift and a responsibility. The words echoed in his mind. Humanity's story was complete, but now it was his to carry forward. Exiting the tower, Aiden looked out over the valley. The ruins of civilization stretched endlessly, but the network of towers pulsed with energy, a reminder of humanity's brilliance and caution. Luma hovered beside him, its lights blinking softly. Network stabilized, it reported. Knowledge preserved. Potential for restoration exists. Aiden nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility and hope. Perhaps one day life could return in some form, guided by the lessons of the past. The journey back through the forest and plains was quiet. Aiden reflected on what he had discovered. The towers, the experiments, the energy, and the story of humanity. 15,000 years had passed, and yet he had uncovered the truth. Humanity was gone, but their memory, their knowledge, and their achievements had survived. He vowed to honor them, document everything, and ensure that the mistakes of the past were never repeated. Days later, he returned to the city ruins where he had first awakened. The towers were now fully connected through the energy network, humming with a steady pulse. He walked through the empty streets, touching walls, doors, and objects that had survived the centuries. He felt a deep connection to the people who had lived here, to the world that had been, and to the responsibility that now rested on his shoulders. At night, he stood on a hill overlooking the city. The towers glowed softly, their energy rhythms filling the air. Stars dotted the sky above, and the silence was no longer empty. It was full of memory, knowledge, and potential. Luma hovered nearby, its sensors observing the horizon. Aiden smiled faintly. The world was quiet, but it was not hopeless. Humanity had vanished, but its story remained, preserved for him and for the future. Aiden realized that his journey had changed him. He had witnessed the rise and fall of humanity through the remnants left behind. He had navigated the towers, understood the energy, and uncovered the truth. 15,000 years of sleep had brought him to a world erased, yet he had found purpose, knowledge, and hope. The responsibility was immense, but he was ready. He looked once more at the towers in the distance. Each one pulsed